Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so we've all been there, right? You set this massive new goal and you were just absolutely pumped. You tell yourself, man, this time it's going to be different. You're waking up at 5 a.m., hitting the gym, cracking open those textbooks, or maybe you're finally launching that side hustle. And for those first few days, you are an absolute machine. But then, well, reality hits. That initial fire, totally gone. Suddenly, hitting the snooze button and just staying buried under the covers feels, honestly, vastly superior to making any actual progress.
Let's be real. Binge-watching your favorite show sounds a heck of a lot more appealing than practicing discipline. And before you even realize what's happening, you're right back where you started, frustrated, disappointed, and asking yourself that dreaded question, why can't I just stick to it? Well, if that sounds familiar, you are in the exact right place. Because in this explainer, we're going to break down the psychology of how to literally force yourself to do what needs to be done, especially when you have zero desire to actually do it.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the myth of motivation. To really grasp this, let's look at two friends, Adam and John, who tackle their January resolutions in totally different ways. Take Adam, for example. Adam went all in on day 1. He bought the expensive planners, plastered his walls with vision boards, and essentially rode this massive wave of hype. But, you guessed it, by week 2, he's skipping the gym and waiting for the right mood to strike. But then, consider John. No hype, no vision boards. In fact, most days, John didn't even want to do the work. But he did it anyway. He showed up quietly and relentlessly, just stacking those small wins.
So why did John succeed? Because he understood a really fundamental truth. Motivation is a myth. By definition, it is just a fleeting emotion. Think of it like a fair-weather friend, the kind that hypes you up when the sun is shining, but completely ghosts you the absolute second it starts to rain. Adam relied on that motivation as his fuel. John, on the other hand, knew he had to treat discipline like a muscle. He forced action when he wasn't ready. Because, and this is huge, discipline isn't something you're born with, it's something you build.
Moving right along to part 2, shifting your core identity.
So how do we actually make that transition from being an Adam to becoming a John? Well, you have to physically flip a switch in your brain. You've got to abandon feeling-based action entirely. Because when you rely on how you feel, your actions are always going to be wildly inconsistent, driven by whatever temporary mood you're in. Instead, you have to shift to identity-based action. This means your choices aren't based on today's vibe, but on the actual person you've actively decided to become.
Now, to make that mental shift, you need an ultimate weapon. The next time you're facing serious resistance, do not ask the tired, lazy version of yourself what to do. Stop and ask yourself this exact question. What would the disciplined version of me do right now? Seriously, think about it. Would that version skip the workout? Would they doom scroll for 3 hours? No way. They'd show up, regardless of the mood.
Okay, let's get into part 3, the action toolkit.
Because hey, mindset is great, but without actual execution, it won't get us very far, right? So let's look at a rapid-fire toolkit you can use to force action today. I absolutely love this first tool. It was popularized by Mel Robbins, and it's called the 5-second rule. See, our brains love comfort, and they are incredibly fast at negotiating excuses. So the very second you feel that hesitation creep in, you literally just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you physically move. Put on the shoes. Open the laptop. If you act before your mind has the time to talk you out of it, you completely short-circuit that natural resistance.
Next up, we really have to rewire our biological drives. We're naturally wired to avoid pain and chase pleasure, right? But honestly, that system is totally outdated for the modern world. Taking the easy path, scrolling social media, eating junk food, sleeping in, sure, it feels like pleasure in the moment. But the ultimate result? It's hidden pain, regret, and just watching your potential slowly rot. You've got to flip the equation. The hard path requires some temporary discomfort, absolutely, but it yields lasting rewards and unlocks your true potential.
Plus, you have to remember, you don't need to climb the entire staircase today. Look closely at how discipline is actually built. It's by stacking micro wins. You force yourself to write just one single paragraph. You do exactly one push-up. You study for just 10 short minutes. And here is the secret most people completely miss. Once you take that tiny, almost laughably small first step, you keep going. Why? Because momentum creates motivation, not the other way around. We really need to stop waiting to feel inspired to act. If you just force yourself to show up for 5 minutes, those 5 minutes will almost inevitably multiply as the gears start turning.
Moving on to part 4, grace and the final push.
Let's be entirely real for a second. Forcing yourself isn't easy. And you were inevitably going to stumble and mess up. That's just being human. But how you handle that failure dictates everything. This is exactly where most people lose the battle. When they slip up, their inner critic takes over, beating them up so harshly that they just quit entirely. You have got to shut that critic down and become your own inner coach instead. Think about it. If a good friend messed up, you wouldn't call them a failure, right? You'd pull them up and say, hey, you've got this. You need to start talking to yourself exactly like that.
Because the truth is, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. When you stumble, remind yourself of this. That was one moment. It doesn't define me. I'm still in the fight. Just acknowledge the slip-up, refuse to let it derail your core identity, and keep on moving forward.
Which brings us to part 5, the ultimate perspective test. This is the final, most profound framing mechanism to guarantee you stop making excuses. I want you to imagine you're on your deathbed, looking back at your life and all that untapped potential. In that final moment, are you going to care about how tired you were on a random Tuesday? Or how inconvenient it felt to get out of bed early? No way. You're only going to care about whether you lived fully. So ask yourself this right now. Did I live with discipline, or did I let comfort steal my future? Force yourself to act now while your story is still being written. You don't need motivation. You just need grit. So what choice are you going to make tomorrow morning? Thanks for tuning into this explainer and keep building that discipline.